one of the most beloved players of the generation, end up with the entire Latin American region rooting against it. And here's a twist we're going to get into. The loudest, meanest, most viral moments you saw online were not the full story. There were Argentines defending Mexico, praising Latin America, rejecting all of this. You just didn't see as much of it. Now, in the middle of this World Cup, and for some time now, a completely different conversation was happening, and it had nothing to do with the game. In the middle of July, right as Argentina was reaching the final, a video started circulating of Argentine people saying on camera that they don't consider themselves Latin American. So this isn't just one person having a bad take, this is a literal compilation, and it spread across multiple countries, generating real backlash from people pointing out that Argentina is Latin American by geography, by language, by history. Others took this as typical Argentinian talk and have accepted for years that this is the narrative, that if Argentinians have distanced and detached themselves from Latin America and the Latino label, then fine, we clearly don't stand together, simple as that. But here's the thing, this sentiment isn't new, there's real actual data on this. An Argentine researcher named Maria de Los Angeles Laza analyzed 40,000 posts on Twitter in both English and Spanish that mentioned Argentina, Messi, or the national team over a 6-week window from June 11th to July 20th. And her research broke the conversation down into 29 specific topics grouped into 5 major narratives. One was purely about football, all of it, the accusations of referee favoritism, corruption, privileges for Argentina. But the second biggest narrative was about Argentine racism, and it was directly tangled up with this identity question. The exact claims that circulated were things like Argentines aren't Latin American and they think they're European, paired with accusations that Argentina rejects its Afro-descendant and indigenous roots. And according to Laza, racism basically got treated online as an essential trait of Argentine society, something true of the country as a whole, and by extension, true of every individual Argentine. So when you saw those "we're not Latino, we're European" clips going around, that was one thread in a genuinely massive, trackable conversation that was already forming an opinion about Argentina as a country, before the final was even played, before this World Cup, for years now. Now, if this self-identity conversation was the slow-burning fuel, this next part was the match that lit things up, at least where Mexico is concerned. Eduardo Feynman is a well-known Argentine broadcaster. After Mexico got knocked out by England, someone asked him on air who he was rooting for, and instead of just answering, he went off. His exact words:
Detesto a los mexicanos, los detesto con mi alma. La envidia que los mexicanos le tienen a los argentinos, no solamente en el fútbol, en todo, nos envidian. Quieren ser como nosotros.
Feynman did apologize about a week later, claiming he said he was just talking football, not attacking Mexican people. Now here's the part that actually matters for the bigger picture of this video. Feynman is a polarizing figure even inside Argentina. Roughly 2/3 of people who weighed in on him didn't like his confrontational style. They saw it as aggressive and highly unreliable, meaning the loud minority voice that Mexico heard loudest wasn't even something most Argentines were fully behind. So you've got this media figure with real reach saying genuinely inflammatory things, getting real backlash even from his own country, and still, his comments are the ones that traveled across an entire nation's memory of this World Cup. But that wasn't an isolated event. There was a real pattern of incidents through this tournament that, fair or not, built a case against Argentina in the eyes of a lot of viewers. During the Cabo Verde and Egypt matches against Argentina, streamer IShowSpeed was racially abused to the point where FIFA opened an official investigation. And back in 2024, Enzo Fernandez posted a video of himself and teammates singing a chant that mocked French players' African heritage. That same chant reportedly resurfaced among some Argentina fans during this 2026 tournament. And there was a ridiculous amount of incidents of Argentina fans taunting, mocking, burning and spitting on flags, disrespecting entire countries. These were widely circulated throughout the entire tournament. And of course, none of these incidents individually are the whole story or speak of the whole country. But if you stack them together, the referee bias accusations, the European self self-identity, Feynman, the racism, the chants, the disrespectful acts, this untouchable attitude that made their rounds through social media, you can see how by the time the final actually kicked off, and even long before that, a lot of Latin America had already built a narrative in their head about why they would ever choose to support Argentina. And then the final happened, and all of that built-up sentiment had somewhere to land. One Argentine described a colleague in Brazil who provoked her every single day of the tournament, predicting Spain would win. Another Argentine woman who'd studied in Spain years earlier got contacted by former classmates specifically to insult her after the final. And international newspapers piled on too. A Brazilian columnist for O Globo wrote a piece literally titled "Rooting for Argentina Became Untenable." And a Boston Globe columnist, Marcela Garcia, wrote something that captured the mood perfectly. She described a meme that lays out a hierarchy for Latino fans in the US during the World Cup. First, support your own country. Then support any other Latin American country except Argentina. Then support the US. And only when there's no other option left, support whoever's playing against Argentina. And her closing line was blunt. She'd be rooting for Spain, the country that colonized her own. So that's the tone that dominated. And of course, we then had some Argentinians taking the loss and lashing out at things that have nothing to do with the game. A quote-unquote influencer, and side note, I genuinely have no idea who she is, and I don't think many do, but she went on to state,
Están viniendo todas mis haters a decirme, Argentina perdió. Esto es un recordatorio que seguís siendo fea. Seguís siendo una fea de mierda. Argentina perdió, pero ganó mi cara. Y vos seguís siendo una fea de mierda. 3, 4, 5 días, todo el mundo se va a olvidar del mundial y todo va a volver a la normalidad. Y vos vas a llorar porque sos una fea de mierda, sin importar de dónde seas del mundo. Y nunca vas a tener ni una pizca de la belleza que sale de Argentina. Sigan llorando, nunca van a tener la belleza de una Argentina.
An Argentinian podcast went on to call for deportation of Spaniards and Mexicans.
Extranjeros, incluso extranjeros que están parasitándonos acá. Honestamente, si me preguntan a mí, habría que deportar hasta el último hijo de mil de esos. Y esto va más allá de la pelotita, va más allá de la cuestión futbolística. Creo que estamos en condiciones de declarar enemigos a unos cuantos países.
So all of this is the whole reason this story is more complicated than everyone hates Argentina now, or it's cool to hate Argentina now. And yes, we troll Argentina and we celebrate. A lot of us were fed up with the way things were going and how people were being treated. But I myself also know that those ugly viral clips do not represent Argentina as a whole. And I'm certain that the vast majority of people also know that it only represents a small part of a country. Not everyone in Argentina behaved like Feynman or like the players who turned their backs on that trophy ceremony. There were Argentines online praising Mexico directly, calling it a proud sovereign country, rejecting the idea that Argentines look down on their neighbors.
Tenemos una confraternidad muy grande con el pueblo mexicano.
Se escucha que en redes somos enemigos, pero no es cierto.
No, ¿qué enemigo de qué? ¡Viva México!
No todos los argentinos somos iguales, amamos la cultura mexicana y amamos a los mexicanos.
Yo, como argentina, viviendo en México, siempre voy a hinchar por México, literal.
Mirá, yo es la quinta vez que vengo a México. Bendiciones, es un país hermoso. Con todo mi amor.
Un argentino manda un saludo y un abrazo al gran pueblo mexicano. Para mí es una nación noble y soberana. Eso no tiene precio.
So yes, those clips existed, they just didn't spread the way the ugly ones did, because that's how virality works. Outrage and hate will travel faster than kindness every single time. And then there's a moment that says all of this better than any quote could. During that trophy ceremony where most of the Argentine team turned their backs on Spain's celebration, one player didn't. Jose Flaco Lopez